thank you for being here. This is an important announcement for our community. On 18 separate occasions in 2021, a life has been ripped away from a community, from loved ones, from spouses, from sons and daughters, and from families. 18 murders in 2021 is 18 too many. We take each and every life lost, every life taken very, very seriously. And so far this year, we have closed 14 of our 18 homicides for a closure rate of 78%. And our detectives in our Major Crimes Bureau work very, very hard, and they are the gold standard, no doubt about it. Our community will remember that back on August the 7th, Raphael Pierce, 23 years old, of Alexandria, was shot and killed. We quickly developed information that led us to suspect and then obtain an arrest warrant for Raphael Pierce's stepfather, Terrence Butler. Terrence Butler, 40 years old, of Alexandria. We've been looking for him. He's been on the loose. We've been searching for him relentlessly since August the 7th, and now today we're proud to announce that Terrence Butler is in custody and is charged with the murder of Raphael Pierce. Butler's a convicted felon. He's known to the criminal justice system. This speaks to the common thread that we're seeing in 2021 about the nature of violence in Fairfax County today. And the nature of violence in Fairfax County today, particularly murders, is that there is a relationship between our victims and their offenders. And you've heard me say on a number of occasions that sons are killing mothers, they're killing their fathers, and on one occasion, killing a sibling. This relationship is equally disturbing when a son-in-law kills a father-in-law at a family gathering inside of an apartment that began as a verbal dispute and escalated in gunfire, and a life is forever lost. So we're going to keep working hard with our community. Our Bureau Chief of Major Crimes and Cyber and Forensics, Major Ed O'Carroll, will fill in some details on this case, and then we'll stand ready to answer any questions you may have. Major.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Appreciate that. Just before 9 p.m. on August 7th, patrol officers from the Mount Vernon District Station responded to an apartment in the 7400 block of Vernon Square in High Bluff Valley, within, again, the Mount Vernon Police District. There was a call at an apartment for a reported loud argument and a single gunshot. Patrol officers rapidly arrived and discovered a 23-year-old victim, Raphael Pierce of Alexandria. He was deceased. Officers immediately determined that the suspect left the area in a vehicle, and we, the Fairfax County Police Department, provided a lookout and all points bulletin to surrounding law enforcement jurisdictions. Detectives from the Major Crimes Bureau, both the Investigations Division and the Crime Scene Unit, immediately responded and assumed the investigation from patrol. Detectives were able to quickly determine that Terrence Butler, 40, of Alexandria, hosted a small gathering at this apartment when an argument ensued between Mr. Pierce and Mr. Butler. Butler would ultimately fatally shoot our victim one time in the upper body and rapidly left the apartment. That evening, my detectives obtained arrest warrants, multiple arrest warrants, and notified the community that he was wanted for murder. So since that evening, our detectives from the Fugitive Track and Apprehension Unit executed more than 30 search warrants, conducted numerous interviews, combed not only Fairfax County but throughout our region, which included the Washington, D.C. area, extensive amounts of efforts to try to locate and apprehend Butler. This morning, as the chief just announced, our detectives received critical information about where Mr. Butler was located in Washington, D.C., and thankfully, they took him into custody. He was taken to the Central Detention Facility, where he awaits extradition back to Fairfax County, where he will face the charges of second-degree murder the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. We want to thank all our detectives who have not stopped working on this case since the tragic night of August 7th. Today's arrest showcases the hard work over 41 days. Special thanks again to the Fugitive Track and Apprehension Unit, to the United States Marshal Service, and to the Metropolitan Washington, D.C. Police Department. As I've said before, when I've spoken to the community, it is and it does take a team effort. And this case is yet another example. Before I open it up for any questions, I want to offer, on behalf of the police department, especially my team that works the most difficult cases, our condolences to Mr. Pierce's family on this senseless loss. Our victim service advocates, who do an incredible job, will continue working with the family and supporting them through their most difficult time. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Major, we've seen a number of these domestic cases, obviously. I feel like almost all of them that we've been through this year. Are you seeing any other trends? Is there anything other than, the domestic nature in these that are happening?
Yeah, so the chief highlighted oftentimes what we've seen on some of these cases, that they're domestic in nature, that the offender knows their victim. So family violence, domestic violence, family violence. This is family. This is acquaintance violence. But again, these aren't just numbers. I mean, this is, of our 18, as the chief mentioned, this was our 15th homicide. But we don't talk numbers. We talk families and victims that are so tragically impacted by violence. It has to stop. We have to come together as a community, and law enforcement's part of the answer. But families need to discuss when arguments and things of this nature start. It should not, shall not resort to physical violence or use of a firearm or an edged weapon, any of those things. I think as a community, we need to talk more about working through challenges. Chief, is there anything you want to add?
That's a great question. There's a lack of conflict resolution skills in society generally, but particularly amongst families in 2021. So there's often a crisis. The crisis is resolved with access to a firearm and gunfire, murder. So the inability to resolve simple conflicts is certainly something that we're grappling with in 2021. And I'll just reiterate what Major O'Carroll has asked our community, and I have on several occasions. If you see conflict brewing next door, if you know of a family that one of their family members, a son, a daughter, a mother, or a father, is in behavioral or other types of crisis, don't turn a blind eye to it. Don't turn your back on it. Call for help. We have so many ways that we can help people in crisis, but we can't get to those folks unless a family member or a community member, a loved one, the clergy, the schools, reaches out to us and says, hey, I think this person is in crisis and he or she may be a danger to himself, herself, or others. We need that type of opportunity to intervene left of boom, because we've been caught right of boom on one too many occasions.
Thank you, Chief. Any final questions? I just want to say I know most of my team is seated out in the audience today, and I know the folks that follow us online don't get a chance to see the men and women of the Fairfax County Police Department, both sworn and professional, that work tirelessly for justice of those victims. So to my staff, thank you. You make a difference, and I really appreciate that. And thank you for following this story, this tragedy, and that concludes the press conference. Thank you.